Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Gavin Courtney.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
It's a pretty calm morning after what was a lot of rain last night.
Yeah, definitely drier. We can say that much. We can report that.
For sure. We are going to be, of course, giving you a weather update in a few, but if you're tuning in right now, we're just getting our show started. It's a great morning in Belize City. And of course, there is a lot to talk about. If you watched our evening newscast last night, covered a range of topics, but I'm sure that, of course, what's probably on the forefront of everybody's mind is the somewhat alarming number of rising cases of COVID-19. And yesterday's report that was released by the ministry for the weekend that just passed was indicated over 140 positive cases. And that brings our tally of total active cases to over 900 right now, which of course is extremely, extremely concerning.
Yeah, you know, I have to dive back into the archives to see if we've been in a situation before where we've had this many active cases at one time. We're nearing that 1,000 mark, and you know, I think there is reason to be concerned, and there is reason to kind of reassess or activities as we go about each day. We're also looking at the situation of hospitalizations, and we cannot forget to note that there are additional deaths to report as well. So we are seeing people lose their lives to this disease, and you know, we look at the cases and we see double digits in Belize City. We know Belize City continues to be a place of concern. We also reported yesterday that the well-known doctor, Dr. Fernando Cuellar, is in fact hospitalized with COVID-19. He is experiencing what we call the breakthrough infection, which means he's vaccinated, but he did get COVID, which we know is a reality. And what the vaccination does is help your body to be able to fight it. Of course, we do wish him the best. Yesterday, he said he was feeling better. But it's a critical situation.
Absolutely. And in a related note, which is but more on the positive side, is that yesterday also saw the rollout, or the beginning of the rollout of the administration of the Pfizer vaccines for persons 12 and over. And that was, yesterday was the beginning of the ministry's drive to get the younger population vaccinated. And that, I think, of course, is a positive development. And the number of, I think it's always a great thing to see the number of vaccinations increase and more vaccines becoming available to a bigger section of the population. Because, as we all know, that even though the vaccine doesn't prevent you 100% from contracting COVID-19, it does still significantly reduce your chance of contracting it in the first place. And the follow-up from that is that it also reduces your chance of spreading it to others. So even though we say it all the time, we can never remind you enough that if you are not vaccinated, please go out, find some information if you don't know where to go, when to go. But we always do want to leave that message with you.
Yeah, and we also saw the release of the new statutory instrument with the COVID regulations as well. We are looking at some of the things that we'd already known because the Prime Minister had mentioned it last week in an interview, which included the fact that there's no sale of alcohol after 6 p.m., the fact that port workers would now be included in the frontline workers category. which means they have to get vaccinated or present a negative test. We also see where casinos and churches are being asked to reduce the number of people. And also, you have to be vaccinated to go into a casino, and the workers have to be vaccinated as well. Wakes and funerals are cut down by the number of people. And yeah, you know, it's one of those times where, you know, let's be honest, we're all tired of COVID. Mm-hmm. We're all tired about talking about COVID and being concerned about COVID. But just because we have COVID fatigue doesn't mean the disease has gone away, and it doesn't mean that the threat has been removed. So we have to remain vigilant, and we have to ensure that we are not exposing ourselves unnecessarily in situations where we could possibly contract the disease. And of course, the risk there is that you may pass it on to others, especially people who are unvaccinated, who would be at higher risk of getting the severe symptoms.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. And I was, of course, when the SI did come out and I was reading through the regulations yesterday, of course, I thought the same thing, what you said earlier about, you know, everybody's tired, everybody's exhausted and I mean, not only from the restrictions, but I think also let's say from the onset of the pandemic, this sort of ever-changing circumstances that you don't really know what to expect next, and it's hard to plan and stuff. So everybody's tired of that feeling. But you know, every time I catch myself feeling sort of really frustrated and saying, you know, I just don't care anymore. I really do think about. I look at the figures of hospitalizations, and I think about the medical workers who are the ones who really have to bear the brunt of the consequences of, you know, other people's behavior. Yeah. So as much as I might want to say, like, oh, you know what, I just want to, you know, I don't want to wear my mask. I don't know, something like that, or
you want to get in a crowd.
Exactly, you know, like, you know, you want to. Everybody's probably, you know, a lot of people are ready to like get back and you know party or whatever. And I really and every time I do catch myself thinking like that, I think about, well, if we lose the restrictions and we just allow the transmission to just go free, as is happening in several other countries, the effects on the medical system would be so dire. And I think not only for people who would be suffering with serious cases of COVID-19, but also the ripple effect on the larger system. People who have other treatments that they need that they won't be able to access because the hospitals or the health resources will have to be diverted, and that's going to just cause even more problems. So every time I think about, you know, every time I get annoyed with the restrictions, I think about, well, imagine how a doctor must feel right now. Yeah. Or a nurse. Yeah.
There's actually a report coming out of the U.S. in South Florida where the doctors walked out of the hospital this morning in a show of their discontent. They're overwhelmed. Florida especially is seeing a major surge of COVID-19, primarily unvaccinated people. And you're right. Yeah, our medical workers continue to work and treat people and diagnose people, no matter if they're vaccinated or not. And we know that we're starting from a place of disadvantage. We have to be honest and assess us for where we are. So we don't have the type of robust health care that some of the developed countries are starting off with and still being overwhelmed. We know that we have limited capacity, we have limited human resources, and we have limited financial resources as well. So these are all things to take into consideration, but that is where we are today. Over 900 active cases, and those are only confirmed cases so far. I think the key message, Dr. Musa had said in an interview a few weeks ago that it's kind of your own personal plan now. You don't have to wait for regulations to come in to say, don't do this, don't do that. Assess your risk with everywhere that you go. Is it necessary? Is it worth it? How much do I need to expose myself at this time? And if I expose myself, who will I then expose after? I mean, you don't want to shut down your whole workplace after, you know, because you made a poor choice in your interactions. So I think that those are things that we have to take into consideration and start to execute on our own.
No, I agree 100%. And I think that that also, you know, one of the big things, or the second other consideration that, the major one that people always talk about when it comes to the effect of the pandemic is, of course, economic. And you brought up something that was, really correct in saying that it can have an effect on your workplace as well. If you have a business, if you work in an office, and we know what happens, and we've seen it in the news where places have had to have been closed down.
Yeah, we don't even report it on it every day now. Yeah. Like you just see the announcements online because every day there's a new establishment that's closed for 4 days.
Exactly, and I mean that also has an effect as well. So everything has a consequence, which I think is probably the biggest lesson that has come out of this pandemic, and the consequence that also affects other people. So keep that in mind when you are conducting yourself, and we hope that you make the wise choice.
All right, but that is where we are with COVID today. Of course, you can look forward to the latest update in our newscast tonight. But we got to keep things moving this morning, get into some motivation to get your day started. That means it's time for Eye Opener. And our Eye Opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. There is no such thing as a right or wrong response, as we all bring our own experience. Our view of the universe is largely determined by our experiences. It is when we're caught off guard by the spontaneity of existence that we're most apt to respond authentically, even when our feelings do not correspond with those of the multitude. Events that arouse strong emotions with us or are surprising in nature can be disquieting, for it often is in their aftermath that we discover how profoundly our histories have shaped us. Life's pivotal events can provide you with a way to define yourself as a unique and matchless being. But you must put aside the judgments that might otherwise prevent you from gaining insight into your distinct mode of interpreting the world. When you feel unsure of the legitimacy of your reactions, remember that cultural, sociological, spiritual, and familial differences can cause two people to interpret a single event in widely dissimilar ways. Examining your responses outside of the context provided by others can show you that your emotional complexity is something to be valued, for it has made you who you are today.
I really like that eye-opener. I think it's really true, of course, and that everything is sort of relative to your own experience. And I think that, the eye-opener mainly spoke about the effect of that on self-doubt, but I think that what also has to be taken into consideration is we have to think about that, we have to think like that about ourselves as well as others. So when we want to react to something that somebody said or did, and you might think that it came from some different place, or that somebody was trying to say something or do something, when in reality their interpretation of the situation is a lot different, and their reaction might be different than yours. And so it's a balancing act, trying to learn yourself as well as other people. But it's true, everything is different, and with that said, you can also, once you really take ownership of that, then you can also contribute and find ways in which your uniqueness and your point of view can perhaps improve things, or perhaps you can point out something that nobody else noticed. And it all comes with trusting yourself, and that can be hard, especially as the eye-opener said, when the majority or a whole lot of people might think one way or say something, and then you might feel differently. But examine why. And perhaps it may just be different, and I think that is one great thing, that diversity generally I find is a good thing.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to just trust yourself and be different.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think that for me is the fundamental part. Imagine if we all reacted the exact same way to everything. Yep. I mean, just how dull it would be. We all add different colors to life and interactions, and we have to be comfortable in accepting that. And you will see something entirely different from I do. you will respond to it differently because we're different characters, different beings. And I think that there's no need for you to kind of mold yourself into what the status quo is doing, especially when you feel confident with your own response.
Yeah,
So, yeah, great eye-opener.
I think so too.
Yeah. Okay, but we got to get moving into our weather update for today. And I know we're trying to get our forecaster on the line, but we're just going to go ahead and get started with reading the forecast. Yeah?
And so for our...
Oh, we got them.
Yep.
There we
Yes,
go.
we've got...
Good morning.
Good morning, my dear. How are you?
We are great. It's a sunny morning so far, which I'm hoping
Yes.
means good news.
Like what you said, so far.
All right, what's happening with the weather today?
Okay, there is still moisture around. There's still instability around. So for today, we'll be seeing a little bit more sunshine, but we'll continue to see cloudy spells. And I am still going for a few showers and isolated thunderstorms around the country, but I'm seeing mostly over central and southern areas. Currently, if we look at the radar, we'll see that area already or still having showers and rain. And that will continue for most of the day. Then later tonight, again, it will be concentrated over these areas.
Okay, and do we have any advisories or watches to tell people about?
Say that again, please.
Do we have any advisories or watches to tell people about?
Oh, okay. Yeah, since yesterday we put up a flood warning, and that's for areas in the northern districts and in the southern districts. So that is still in effect.
All right. What about today's temperatures?
All right, then we'll be seeing 87 along the coast, 90 inland, 78 up in the Maya Mountains, and then overnight, 81 along the coast, 74 inland, and 68 up in the Maya Mountains.
Okay, and our outlook as we head into the middle of the week?
All right, so starting tomorrow, we'll see a big decrease in shower activity. So we're going for isolated showers, isolated thunderstorms. Definitely be seeing more sunshine, and that will go from Wednesday through to Friday.
Oh, that's some good news.
Yes.
But is there anything else in the wider Caribbean that we're monitoring or should be concerned about at this time?
Yes, we've been watching since yesterday a tropical wave. Right now it's, I believe it's just south of Puerto Rico area, and we are seeing that towards the middle of the week, the end of the week, it will form a broad area of low pressure. The Hurricane Center said depression can also form, and we are seeing it heading in our area. So we are monitoring that system, and I'm advising Belizeans to be on the alert as well.
All right. Well, Francisca, thank you so much for giving us that update this morning.
You're welcome, Gavin.
And I hope you have a great day.
You too.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Right. So they heard it, a little bit more showers to expect. And of course, if you are living in a flood-prone area, especially in the north or the south of the country, do please be monitoring the situation as we are expecting some showers and there is a flood warning in effect. But with that said, we are going to get into our show this morning, and we've got a lot of great conversations lined up. Our first conversation for this morning is going to be with representatives from the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and they are going to be talking about some of the initiatives that they have started to combat COVID-19. We're getting into things like spreading awareness about certain important topics and having some discussions about some very pressing matters related to COVID-19 and the business community. And that is going to be our first segment this morning.
All right, and the second part of our show, we are going to be getting the latest update on how the public transportation system is working to ensure that there is priority seating for persons with disabilities. Very important move that they're making there, and we'll get the details about it in the second part of our show.
And finally, we are going to be hearing from one of our most popular local athletes Kaya Katus is going to be coming in and sharing her experience. She recently traveled abroad and raced in several international events, but she's back now and is going to be giving us an update on all that has been going on with her over the past few weeks, and that's going to be our final conversation. But with that, we are going to be taking a break, and when we come back, we are going to have our show. So please stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime, while with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
Good morning, sweetie. It's time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
Here are 3 reasons why people choose Dunes as their #1 store. Reason 1, for loans of up to $1,000 in cash for unexpected emergencies. The process is quick and easy. Reason 2, for a wide variety of household items such as smart TVs, washers and dryers, stoves, refrigerators, freezers, cookware, back-to-school supplies, and much more. Check out our comfortable sofa sets in various sizes and styles. And reason 3, we are agents for Western Union, where you can send or receive money in minutes or pay all your utility bills and avoid waiting in long lines. And don't forget, Dunes provides layaway plans and credit on all household items. So make the right choice and shop for the best quality products at competitive prices with friendly customer service.
Dunes, located at number 57 Albert Street, Belize City, and in Corozal at number 8 Park Street South. Give us a call at 280-5209, 650-6580, or 422-3342. Dunes!
Whether it's back to the classroom or back on the tablets, the new school year is almost here. We know you missed seeing the children take center stage in 2020, but now Summerfest is back, pandemic style. Join us on August 27th for a virtual celebration of our talented Belizean children. We'll bring you all the family fun and entertainment right in the comfort of your home. Don't worry, we'll still have fantastic giveaways throughout the live show. All you have to do is follow us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ. Our annual Kids Talent Show starts at 6:30 a.m. live on 5 and streamed on Facebook and YouTube. Start your school year right with Summerfest 2021.
If you are ailing due to a chronic disease and are left permanently invalid before retirement age, you may want to check if you qualify to receive invalidity benefit. The invalidity benefit exists for persons who are unable to continue working due to permanent illness. To qualify, you must be under 60 years old, must be sick for 26 consecutive weeks and certified to be medically unable to perform any type of work, must have at least 5 years of paid SSB contributions and at least 5 paid within the 3 months leading up to your illness. If you do not qualify for the invalidity pension, you may be eligible for the invalidity grant. Want to know more about invalidity benefit? Visit our website or contact any of our offices to have someone assist you. Also, be sure to visit our Facebook page and give us a like to stay informed. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
The new season of Caribbean Model Search is here.
To be on this show is like a blessing to me. I feel so special.
Powerful post icons, hot new potential post grades.
I feel like I can ace it.
Who will chart their own course, join the top ranks, and add to the rich history of the Pulse powerhouse of modeling talent? Who will take the top spot? Who will turn potential into Pulse greatness?
I want to come out on top.
Don't miss this season of Caribbean Model Search.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
And we are back. And if you're joining us now, we are just getting our first conversation for this morning started. And as we said before the break, we are joined by representatives from the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry talking about some of their initiatives that they are embarking on to deal with a lot of different issues related to COVID-19. So this morning we are joined by Marissa Longsworth, who is the president of the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We have Jordy Williams, who is a counselor, and we are also joined by a Zoom by Catherine Main, who is the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We definitely appreciate your time and coming in to talk to us. Now, before the break, Marlene and I were talking a little bit about COVID fatigue. And of course, I'm sure that's being felt by the business community as well. So before we get into the topics, can you just give a little bit of an update from the chamber on how the business community is coping, especially with the rising cases and the new regulations that were just passed yesterday.
Right. Well, thank you and good morning, everyone. Good morning, Belize. Thank you for tuning in this morning. I think there are two categories of what's happening in the business community, with some fatigue and some total breakdown. We know that there are several businesses that have not survived, that are closed indefinitely, and have thought that it is essentially cheaper for them to wait this out if they can, because when you look at the matters of dealing with employees, when you look at the matters of keeping your overheads, you know, up to date and so on, all your bills, we're seeing that businesses are having big difficulties keeping that maintained. Even in terms of our membership, one of the indicators for us has been that there has been a slight drop in membership during this period. And of course, we understand that that is a part of the decision making that members do have to make to say, look, I am down to my last dollar. What can I spend on? What is seemingly optional to me or not? And so that has been an indicator that for us has directly touched our bottom line as a chamber. Remember that we are also a business too. We have Western Union as one of our businesses. And so we have had this experience of COVID fatigue. But one thing that I think that the chamber wants to mention is that a part of mitigating the fatigue, a part of dealing with the issues of fatigue is giving businesses predictability. If we understand what happens when there is an increase in conditions or increase in circumstances that requires certain adjustments to be made, and we understand way in advance what type of adjustments those would tend to be at different phases, then I believe, and I think the chamber also believes, since we have been lobbying for this since 2020, that you build confidence. Marlene, you must remember I was here last year talking about business confidence building measures, in that if you give businesses predictability, and I remember us talking about even how we deal with hurricanes, we have flags, and you know that if it's a red flag, it's a phase 1, and this is the type of preparation you do for phase 1. If or category 2 hurricane, you intensify category 3, category 4. We have been lobbying for that kind of approach for quite a while now, because we feel as though if businesses are able to know, hey, based on the numbers, by the next 2 weeks, we might be going into the orange phase. What do we do at the orange phase? What that means is that this haphazard knee-jerk reaction to SIs that come out would not occur in the way that they're currently occurring, because the SI would fit in with the structures and protocols that are in place to say, okay, we're moving into the red phase now. Businesses understand what that means, and they immediately take the measures. In absence of that, there has been unpredictability, there has been fatigue, and there has been the need for businesses to try to adapt on their own. What that means then is that there are differences in interpretation as to what should be done by a business versus what shouldn't. So you'll have police walking into one restaurant with their interpretation and then another restaurant down the street with a different interpretation. And so that's what I want to start with, because that is our theme at this point in time, is bring us predictability, collaborate with us, communicate with us, and so we are able to have our business community understand a little bit better, because we're going to have these ups and downs. And so what do we do at an up? What do we do at a down? I think that we continue to lobby and advocate for that even today, a year later.
Yeah, rightly so. I do recall that very same conversation a year ago where, you know, the easiest example is to look at Mexico or Central America. They use a stoplight system. It's simple enough. You know, you go yellow, orange, green. Yellow, orange, red, and you know what type of restrictions will be put in place in each phase, rather than waiting for the latest SI to know what is going to be restricted. But before we move forward on that, I just want to get a reaction. The Prime Minister mentioned what is considered the evil word for the wider community in this pandemic, which is lockdown. And They're not there yet, and for a while they've said that they would prefer to not move into a lockdown phase. But he says if things can't get under control, this is something they will be exploring. What's your immediate reaction to that as the business community? Do you want to start, Kathy?
Sure. Well, quite an interesting question. I honestly feel that coming back to what Marissa mentioned, I think it's important that collaboration and communication play a role here. And I think with more collaboration and more communication with the business community, I think we will identify ways where the message gets across, and the message of we are all in this together, to use a phrase that we have heard over and over. Delta is a whole other spectrum of COVID because of its ability to spread so quickly and so easily. So I sincerely feel that the collaborative approach, the communicative approach, and the ability to be predictable will help as well in the circumstance, in this current situation, and in that way possibly assist with not getting us to that point of being locked down. I think we all understand that balance between health and economics, and all of us don't want to get there. So if all of us, or as many of us as possible, are contributing towards this and understanding what all we can do to play our part, then that will be a step in the right direction to prevent that lockdown. So it doesn't necessarily scare me and get me nervous. The point is, so what can I do to prevent that from happening as a business? That's how I see it. And then as a citizen, the same question is what I'm asking. What can I do as a citizen, having family members, having friends, having others that you are worried or concerned about because Delta is a health risk? What can we do to support and help so that does not happen? That's my initial knee-jerk reaction to that.
Yeah. Now, coming back to the part of collaboration and communication, what is the engagement with the chamber or the private sector with the decisions being made in how we manage COVID?
I will want Catherine to also speak on this, as she is the one that is our representative running our medical response through the chamber. The chamber was invited to sit on the COVID-19 medical advisory team, which was a government-led body. We also sit on the National Coordinating Committee for the rolling out of the COVID-19 vaccine. And so we have been contributing via those means as well. How active those committees are is another question. And that's why we still have to ask for that collaboration, because we are seeing decisions being made. And when we check with our representatives, did this come out of one of your committee meetings? You know, what was the discussion there? What was the reasoning? There have been no meetings. And so has there been a business approach or perspective taken into consideration with some of the recent decisions? Our opinion is probably no at this point in time. There is not much of a business perspective going into some of the decisions that are being made. And so at this point, I'll also allow Kathy to update us a bit as to what the committee has been doing and the work that we've been doing along with the Ministry of Health, to some extent with the vaccination pop-ups and events and so on. We have been partnering with the Ministry of Health, but in terms of the policy direction and so on, that is where I think the collaboration needs to expand a little bit more.
Right. So to you know, as President Marissa referenced, in terms of the policy side, the lobbying is all about how can we be a part of this effort to assist. And that's the goal, because ultimately, you know, it's important for us to maintain a balance between, but also economic recovery. And being able to be a part of a collaborative, communicative group of entities working towards a common goal, I think, is essential. So, she did a great job in explaining that component. But in addition to that, to add a little bit more about the efforts that the Chamber has been making, first and foremost, I must say, from the very start, there's been a lot of information sharing. A lot of efforts with communicating with members, but also communicating with the public in general about what do you need to know, especially for the business community in the setup and the preparations of your protocol to be safe, to protect your employees, protect your business. So there's been a lot of work put into that. That work continues. And yesterday there was an informational session that was done via Zoom, and that was hosted by the Chamber, but was in participation, or we also had other participants as well. We had PAHO, and we also had the Ministry of Health and Wellness representative, Dr. Baird to be specific. And their goal was to communicate to those persons who are questioning whether it's safe to get that vaccine, and why, and answer questions about persons, for instance, who are vulnerable persons who might are pregnant, persons who may just have had a child, persons who may be breastfeeding. All of these different examples. Let's just say you have some sort of chronic disorder. Is it safe for you to get that vaccine? So some of them are health questions, but some of them are also connected with the safety of being around individuals as well. And that informational session is not the first, but is one that was carried out yesterday. We also have another session coming up on Thursday, and we encourage everybody to take a look at our social media page and learn a little bit more about that session as well. So this effort will continue because making people aware, training, supporting wherever possible is helpful and important in this effort. Outside of that, we also have two other initiatives that we have communicated with the Ministry of Health and Wellness, and that happened last month. And we are actively moving ahead with activating these initiatives. The first is what we call Adopt a Nurse. And this is in collaboration with the Rotary Club of Belize. It was a conversation that we had last year. President Marissa will remember, she was one of the guest speakers at Club, and we spoke about ways of collaborating. And this is now putting that into effect. This is something that the Rotary Club of Belize has done, but we clearly see a need to expand. So now it's at the Chamber's end to assist in the effort towards helping the NHS, so to say, the nursing community with getting them support wherever we can. This is something that Ministry of Health and Wellness has explained to us is needed, is appreciated, and so we're pushing this forward as well, right? And what Adopt a Nurse really means is you as a member of the business community, you as a citizen of the country can choose to support in the payment for these individuals. Nurses, as we know, had to put aside a lot of the efforts that they were doing, for instance, with dengue, and come into the fold to assist with COVID. Now it's been a year and a half or a year and a half plus, and these other efforts like dengue still need to be addressed, still need to be looked at. So ultimately that means bringing more nurses into the system as quickly as possible, and budgeting for that sometimes takes a little longer. So where we can provide that support, we are hoping to do so as well. So we encourage our members, we encourage others as well to assist with that effort, because it's needed, and that means more soldiers at the front line, so to say, if we want to call our nurses frontline soldiers.
Yeah.
Additionally, we also have the business influencers, and that's in essence highlighting those businesses, both chamber members and others, who are doing the right thing, who are supporting the effort, who are working towards, for instance, of getting their persons vaccinated, having a safe work environment, communicating with their employees about how to protect themselves both in office and home. Additionally, businesses who have been providing incentives, there are a number of BCCI members that have been doing that for quite some time, offering discounts, offering various support wherever possible. We know from the science, from the statistics, that one of the protections to get us to a better place and prevent these lockdowns is to get as many persons vaccinated as possible. There is a direct correlation in every way you look at. So it's important for us to play our part and make the efforts wherever we can to support this as well.
Now let's get Jody into the conversation here. Jody, of course, you are here. You have two purposes for being here. One, to speak on your personal business perspective, and of course, as a representative for the chamber. So let's talk about the impacts that you see now, a year and a half into the pandemic.
Yes, like our president said, there's a lot of level of uncertainty happening, and this is not only in Belize but globally. And we have seen a downward spiral of operations, everything when it concerning business. Revenues are down. The labor, some businesses needed to scale down on labor, decrease on salaries. And when the pandemic broke out in 2020, we had to be prepared. And every week at Maurice Sharps, we try to do as much training as possible. We provide information. We had to do a walk-in fumigation system just for protection of our employees. We are 100% vaccinated at Maurice Sharps. We had to do that because we know that it's very important, and we wanted to set the example and set the bar. We are 100%, and the day after that, we gave all of our employees a day off, just to show them that we are in this together. And everyone from top management to our employees are fully vaccinated at Maurice Sharps. So we try to be an example, and at the same time try to educate everyone as much as possible. And I'm glad to be part of the executive council as well, because we learn a lot, we get the experience, and we also get to work on these committees because we're trying to find solutions in this very uncertain times. We as humans are very resilient. We have battled through the Spanish influenza back in the 1900s. We've gone through world wars, and this is just the next hurdle. But as everyone said, Marissa and Catherine, that this is a collaborative effort. And coming together, governments, private sector, public sector, concerned individuals and companies and everyone, it's something that we must come together and work on.
Now, let's come back to the issue of predictability, because I think that that's a key point to kind of move forward. Yes, we're a year and a half in, but it doesn't mean it's too late. One, what impact would that have on a business like yours? If you have a level of predictability that yes. Today we're in orange and we may move into phase red next week.
Yes, we were actually looking, we were saying that we were going to rebound, that rebounding is on the way. And this third wave definitely reset the bar again. So we were actually glad that, we are seeing tourists coming back to Belize. We're seeing our revenues slowly climb again, our sales. We're sending our delivery guys around the country. But now, guess what? The third wave come. A deadlier form of the variant. And there was a slight reset again. And like Marissa said, it's a wave. It goes up and it comes down. And sometimes we need predictability in order to take very strategic business decisions that would protect not only our employees but also to move forward. Because then if businesses try to be resilient, then the economy must go on. And that's very important right now. We need jobs, we need money flowing throughout the economy. And to be in business right now is the best shot we have. So we try to push whatever the agenda such as vaccination, working together, wearing our masks, following protocols. But the unpredictability is serious, but we try to be as predictable as possible, trying to use information that's available out there.
And even in the absence of a scheme like that would tell us, when we talk about predictability, if we look at the situation now and we know that we're in our third wave, we're seeing increasing cases, increasing hospitalizations. Can you give us a reaction from the business community, if not necessarily in terms of what would happen if there's a lockdown, but the health concerns? We know that there would be an enormous strain on the healthcare system, and it doesn't only relate to treating COVID patients. There's a ripple effect. So how has the chamber been dealing with that issue and getting feedback, I suppose, from its members in relation to what concerns they have health-wise?
You know, what's interesting is that if we look at the likelihood, I mean, we understand that going to work is a gathering of people. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
However, going to work and working within formal workplaces that are following the protocols may actually be a safer gathering than when we end up in our restaurants and our bars and hanging out at the parks and that sort of thing. So one thing that we have to look at as well is what is a safe gathering? What is a safe way for people to be in the same space, right? Because that's what other countries around the world have had to look at. And so we will have to grapple with the fact that, yes, in any space where there are a group of people, could be this studio this morning, there could be transmission of some sort, some way, nobody knows how, maybe we touch the doorknob, whatever it might be, right? And so on that basis, we all have to realize that if the spread can happen at the supermarket, at the pharmacy, at the places that will stay open as essential services, then what is different in terms of mandating businesses to also be at a level where all the protocols, all the preventative measures are in place? Now, what you will find is that it's at the social gatherings where people will tend to become more comfortable taking off their masks, not sanitizing, you know, hugging, and that sort of thing. And so our submission really is that the workplace is one of the safer places to be if things are done right and if enforcement occurs. Now, one of the issues is that a lot of what we're seeing as restrictions, it's happening because we can't enforce. It's not necessarily happening because there is a direct link to clusters coming out and that sort of thing. I mean, we haven't really heard of clusters coming out of businesses per se. We've heard at it at the hospital, which sounds obvious because of the nature of the job. But factories and that sort of thing, we're not hearing about clusters coming out of those. And so that gives us the evidence. And that's why it's so important that the predictability is based on data. We've been saying this for a very long time. In our confidence building measures last year, one of our key words was surge capacity. What can the public health system manage, right? Based on that surge capacity, the closer you get to your surge, to your maximum capacity, that's when you start to close things down. So I have from last year, immigration, based on surge capacity and other key indicators within the healthcare system, closely monitor the maximum number of international travelers permitted entry. This should work in tandem with health sector capacity for critical care based on the assumption that a set proportion of international travelers are likely to be COVID positive. So what happened, and we have an example as a chamber. We have a Made in Belize event where we give our entrepreneurs, micros, a chance to sell their products in a public space. This event, and you know, it wasn't even being planned as an event per se, but to give them a space in a market environment, marketplace environment. Now, the protocols affected us. We were basically given our cease and desist. You cannot have this. No matter what protocols you plan to put in place, it's not going to happen, right? Now, when we look at that decision and the effect it has on local micro-business, then we look at the decision, for example, in the recent SI that says all restaurants must be at 50% capacity outdoor dining except for the Keys. It sounds as though you consider higher economic growth coming from tourism and foreign travelers than the local economy that relies on its own population as well to operate. And we have a problem with that because we have been saying that one of the things we have to actually look at and restrict is the entry into the country, because that brings with it its own issues. We had also made that comment relating to the land borders as well, that we have to control some of the incoming persons so that we're able to at least see if we can handle it. Because what has happened is that we have cruise ships with thousands of people, then we have offloading, and when we're talking about 18 ventilators, 2 or 3 being taken up by non-Belizeans or people who have just come in and been unfortunately deserted here, you know, that's a serious consideration.
But what is the balance here? We know the devastation that was caused when we no longer saw the tourism dollar coming in. And a part of the balancing act that the government has to make is how do we keep the tourism dollar coming in to help to sustain the economy and still keep people safe. But so what I'm hearing from you clearly is the concern that you're giving priority to that tourism dollar at potentially the sacrifice of people, Belizeans supporting Belizean businesses. But isn't this a part of the balancing act? Like, shouldn't we be a bit more understanding to the circumstance?
Is it a balance if we begin to move past data and reasoning? That's the question. There is no, and we are the first to say that we need to get back to business. That's the Chamber's mantra, get back to business. We're the first to say that. But we are also the ones to say, as you rightly said, is there a detriment? How do we know there's a detriment, and how do we handle the potential implications of that detriment? And I think that is where we are at this point in time, because it's exactly what we're saying. Because the health system is being crippled, there is an impending lockdown. Because they're saying we have to stop it, we can't take any more people in the hospital, we're in a bit of a panic, we can't allow this to continue. And so that's the thing. We understand that there needs to be a balance, but we want to know what the data is. We want to be a part of the discussion. And we actually had submitted to the Ministry of Health and now to the Prime Minister's office a request. And at first we were looking just at granting for events, because as you know, under the current SI, it is a ministerial decision within health only. We have put a proposal forward that there is a creation of an economic revitalization committee, which is made up of representatives from the business community, the Commissioner of Police, the CEO in Economic Development, and Health. So that when questions come about that has to do with the economy, at first we were saying events, but at this point we need to look bigger than just granting event permissions. We need to have the inputs of everybody when we're making these very critical decisions for our economy. And we need to be able to justify them and have that rationale as well, because it can come across in some cases as discriminatory against some. It cannot come across as though you were not listened to, you were not consulted. And I don't think that during a time like this, where people are already feeling isolated, already feeling defensive, that you want to feel that they want to feel that they do not have a facilitating environment that accommodates them and works with them, rather than shuts them down and prohibits them from doing business.
You know, I've talked with a few small businesses so far, and it's amazing how the third wave, one, they automatically have the fear of the slowdown, and then they start to see the slowdown or have restrictions, and it becomes concerning. What are you hearing from members? You know, what is the situation? Are people starting to see a decline in business activity? Are people moving around less? How does this impact our businesses today? Kathy?
Okay, just stepping back to complement and add a little bit. I think that, you know, every single industry in Belize is important. But we spoke about this before. So we're talking about the same adjectives, the same words. And I think one of the main points is diversity. We all have a part to play. The industry is important to the economy, but there are other industries, the agricultural industry, the BPO industry, which I'm a part of. And these entities play an important role in employment, in foreign exchange, in many angles. And we learned from the very start of COVID that diversity is key, because each industry has its vulnerabilities due to COVID, right? And the more diverse we are, the more we are less dependent on one or the next. Coming back real quick to Gavin's question as well. Gavin, you mentioned the health sector's limitations. That's where private sector comes into play. That was one of the points that was listed on the confidence building measures, and it continues to be one of the points to reference as well. Right, when there's limitations in terms of the testing component, for instance, within the public sector, that's where private sector is. That's where businesses say, guess what? We recognize that the numbers of persons going into public sector to get tested is too much. The time is challenging. The risk is higher. Let's try to find a way to get private sector to be a part of that. And I think the BPO industry is a great example of that. One of the things that we started beginning of last week, actually it wasn't the beginning of last week, it was week prior to that, before we did have discussions a few days into the changes with the SI, was to identify, guess what, we need to support this testing support, and we need to be able to collaborate with private sector entities to get our persons tested, and also to set up protocols to protect our in-office agents. Now, I think it's also important to talk about collaboration, and I loved your question, Marlene, that spoke to predictability. Wow, that question of being able to have predictability means more employment and more investment. That ultimately means that to me. And those are two powerful words that we always have to keep in mind. And I believe that's applicable to almost all industry and more businesses as well. So I think that's very, very clear for us to think about. If we can collaborate, if we understand, we're able to understand better the two sides of the coin, then we can make a predictive and statistical based or data based, and also a more balanced decision as well. So I really think that collaboration is essential, especially at this stage. And we all need the help. We know the help, health and the Ministry of Health and Wellness needs the support of all of the rest of the government, so to say, and also needs the support from private sector as well. So how can we support? Let's find ways to do this, because it's essential for all of us to avoid the situation of lockdown, as you brought up before.
And in a similar vein, and we've spoken a lot about the importance of data. Is the Chamber also monitoring among its membership the impacts of the pandemic, especially as it stands today, in terms of how businesses are surviving, how many people are letting go staff or reducing salaries or shutting down, as you say? How has the Chamber been monitoring itself and so that when it does collaborate with the other industries, it's coming from a very informed perspective?
I'll start out here. As it relates to the the impact on businesses, a lot of the data we have is anecdotal, because members are, and I think this is just in general, businesses don't want to share some of this information, even though it's being used for good. I think, a lot of the times in a smaller country like Belize, people worry about their data getting out and it reflecting on their business and that sort of thing. However, what we do have at this point in time is a poll that's active, and that poll has to do with vaccination. Like, what have you offered to your staff to encourage and incentivize vaccination? How much of your staff is vaccinated at this point in time? What size is your operation? So we're collecting that data actively right now to inform us in terms of where are we seeing, what districts are we seeing, what industries are we seeing that have more vaccination, less vaccination, and where do the efforts need to be targeted at this point in time.
Well, there was the Statistical Institute's survey last year looking at the impact of COVID on businesses, and it did account for. And I know that there was quite a bit of criticism hurled on the private sector, on businesses, because they feel that once the economic impact hit, they passed it on to their staff directly. Some have been making recovery along the way, but what does this third wave mean from your personal experience with members? Does it now add that layer of uncertainty as to how to move forward? Because I think, Jody, you talked about investment and making business decisions or strategic decisions. Let's tie those two together.
Definitely. The 2020 versus 2021 pandemic is quite different because we had to embrace technology in order to move forward. We had to go out and make, like, many companies have to do deliveries. They no longer have to wait in their store. They actually do a delivery service. You know, you pay $1, you could go deliver to your door. You know, we try to embrace the technology as much as possible, selling online, and we have seen now that direct impacts on business, especially like us. We're in the food industry, and we know that in this pandemic, persons must eat. So we met with our farmers. We said, guess what? Don't slow down production of peppers. We want more peppers. But then I tell, well, it's a shutdown, and when they see us on the farm, the police will come and shut us down. So in 2020, we try to collect as much materials as possible. We try to buy as much packaging materials as possible, because then just last week we called our Mexican supplier of bottles, and they said, guess what, Jody, we'll be closed for a month because we have 10 cases in the plant. And we said, okay, well, we'll try to bring from China, but the shipping prices from China to Belize has tripled, doubled and tripled. So direct impacts, it's there, and then sometimes it's very hard not to pass certain these kind of impacts on our employees. But sometimes just to stay afloat, we need to find parts in the balance sheet that we need to cut down, whether it be rent, whether it be salaries, whether it be trying to find a bottle that's cheaper. We have to curtail everything, and at the same time we have to be there for our employees, because this is a very dramatic time as well for them. It's very mentally taxing. So we try to motivate them, because we need productivity 100% now, especially at the time of hours are limited.
You were going to say, Kathy?
Just to add to Jody, one of the things that I and our secretariat team worked extremely hard in terms of, you know, going through the process, because with Made in Belize, of trying to establish protocols, collaborating with public sector, with the police, with the Ministry of Health. It didn't work out because of the wave, we understand that. But in this process, we were able to speak to a lot of young entrepreneurs, a lot of SMEs. And, you know, I'm in awe of them in hearing the conversations coming from the secretariat members that were on the phone speaking to these entrepreneurs. And you see a lot of resilience. You see a lot of willingness to adopt. You use a powerful word before, Marlene, that word of adopting, of changing. And Jody gave the perfect example of using technology where possible. Zoom was not an option, for instance. I would have not been able to be there today if not for Zoom. So we see these changes coming down. And coming back to the SMEs, you know, you hear them changing their product line, speaking more about health as an example, right? Offering components to just protect your immune system or build your immune system. We also heard quite a bit that they want the opportunities to be able to promote their product, and they're trying to find ingenious, safe ways to distribute their product, as Jody said as well. So there are some positives that have come out of this. Delivery services and the changes that happened, I'm sure we may remember, and applications about getting food delivered came out of this as well. So we see those things happening, and we have to try to encourage those things more, and try to also communicate and offer some level of transparency and predictability for these businesses that are finding ways to battle through. They may have had to make changes in terms of how they run their model, what phases of the business has developed thus far, but the goal is not to fail. So ultimately you are pushing forward, and I must say we saw a lot of that in those conversations coming through from the Made in Belize, the discussions that we had.
It has been amazing to see the innovation that some people have employed, and I think it is something that we can tap into as we move forward. But let me just ask one final question in looking at what I hear from you. What I hear from you very clearly is, even if it's a year and a half in, let's sit and put some predictability in place, some markers for businesses to know. My question to you is it unreasonable to ask for predictability in a time where every country and every leader across the world is figuring it out as we move along? Delta wasn't supposed to be here, and the vaccination was supposed to get us back on the path to what was normal. So that's my question to you today.
Absolutely. I think that there can be predictability to an extent. In any situation, there is some predictability, and you must grab that predictability and work with it as much as possible. When we get into our cars every day, we are predicting that we're heading to this location, but something might be an obstacle in the way today that prevents us from getting there. But we have the predictability that there's gas in the tank, that we've serviced the vehicle. It should get us there if something doesn't get in the way. This is a kind of approach that we are looking for as well, to say with certain measures in place, we should get past the next 2 weeks, or we should get past the next 3 weeks. But of course, predictability does not mean lack of flexibility. Because even in predictability, you have to be flexible, you have to be able to quickly adapt. But that's why what we are looking at is not an approach that says, okay, for the next 2 weeks, what are we going to do? We're looking at an approach that says these are protocols and systems in place that we can adapt to as situations change. So even in our confidence building measures from last year, we had a phased approach to lockdown. And that is based on things that will not change really on a daily basis. For example, we say that if you are in the green zone, from the health triggers, less than 5% of tests for the last 14 days have been positive. So that gives you some predictability, because if you're looking at the positivity numbers and it's over 5%, you know we're heading into another zone, another phase that needs another approach. That is some amount of predictability. Now, if it is that we are in the green phase and we have a spike that skips orange to red, that is where you will say, boy, things looking bad. How are we going to be flexible in this situation, despite having our structures for predictability? So that's really what has to happen. And many countries around the world also have their structures and protocols, but then they do have to react as well. And that's what we're talking about. How do we react, and why do we react in the way that we react? What is the basis for that?
What are the triggers?
What are the triggers? What's the advice that you're getting? What perspectives were taken into consideration when this decision was being made? And we think that if that is clear, and if that is clearly communicated to the public at large, then you will have better reaction. Then you will have better compliance. Because overall, we can see that the mask up campaigns and so on have actually worked. Belizeans are fairly compliant once they understand what needs to be done. The question is, do we understand what needs to be done as it relates to what we're talking to today? And from the discussions in our secretariat, and all of us are business people operating in businesses every day, the response that we're getting within that microcosm of the business community and the larger business community is that no, we don't have that predictability, and that is a part of what is preventing the country from keeping its productivity going at a steady pace despite whatever happens at any point in time.
All right.
And quickly before we close, let's just remind some of our viewers of some of the Chamber's initiatives and things that they should be aware of.
Yes, well, the Chamber is remaining very active. We encourage people to be members of the Chamber, because then you're on our mailing list, then you're invited to our mixers, you're able to get special access into some of the events that we've been having as well. You're able to access even the Secretariat. If you want to lobby something in your industry, you're able to say to the Secretariat, I'm having a problem. Can the executive look at this problem? Take it to the committees that we sit on. That's really, the chamber has that influence and that position where we sit in some of the rooms and at the tables where a lot of decisions are being made, and that's important. This week we have an event coming up on Thursday at 5:30. It's for members only, and it is in partnership with the UA Open Campus. It's called An Academic Approach to the COVID Regulations, and this has Mr. Danny Roberts, who is a labor educator and lead partner at IR Plus Consultants and former head of the Hugh Shearer Labor Studies Institute. And Mr. Roberts is well known regionally as a labor expert, and of course he has a lot of experience since the pandemic as it relates to dealing with different countries, different workplaces, and how they have had to adapt to whatever is happening there. So we think that he can give a very good contextual approach from the region in terms of what he has seen in other countries, what he interprets from his own knowledge of what Belize is going through. And so we encourage our members to register. They can WhatsApp us at 614-3138 or call us at 223-5330 to get registered, or just check their email. The chamber would have sent a registration link by email to all members. So we invite everyone to come out, well, all our members to come out to that event and to ask whatever questions they might have.
And you do have your poll ongoing on your Facebook page that people can participate in.
Correct.
And help to provide some context as to how people are doing at this time.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we appreciate you weighing in. We know that while we talk very often about COVID and health and school, definitely looking at the private sector's perspective is equally important. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be getting the latest update on how our public transportation system is changing to be inclusive of persons with disabilities. So please, stay tuned.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor, and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
At Belize Diagnostic Center, we offer FDA-approved PCR testing for COVID-19. Get your results as quickly as 1 hour. Don't risk getting exposed to COVID-19 by going elsewhere. We take appointments, or we can come to your home or office using our concierge service with no additional fees. We have 10 locations countrywide. Call or WhatsApp us at 613-TEST. That is 613-8378 to schedule your test today.
Smart continues to expand its internet coverage countrywide to help you live a smarter life.
Our villagers are very happy. They are pleased to know that Smart went the extra mile to put a tower in our village so that our villagers can get live stream on their TVs and they can get their kids doing their online classes. I want to say to Smart, thank you for making it possible for us to get internet in Gardenia Village. We really do appreciate it.
Smart continues to take the internet and mobile services to communities across Belize. Now save even more when you bundle your Smart broadband with Smart mobile services. Smart, bringing people together.
Good morning, sweetie. It's time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
Here are 3 reasons why people choose Dunis as their #1 store. Reason 1, for loans of up to $1,000 in cash for unexpected emergencies. The process is quick and easy. Reason 2, for a wide variety of household items such as smart TVs, washers and dryers, stoves, refrigerators, freezers, cookware, back-to-school supplies, and much more. Check out our comfortable sofa sets in various sizes and styles. And reason 3, we are agents for Western Union, where you can send or receive money in minutes or pay all your utility bills and avoid waiting in long lines. And don't forget, Dunis provides layaway plans and credit on all household items. So make the right choice and shop for the best quality products at competitive prices with friendly customer service.
Dunis, located at number 57 Albert Street, Belize City, and in Corozal at number 8 Park Street South. Give us a call at 280-5209, 650-6580, or 422-3342. Dunis!
If you are ailing due to a chronic disease and are left permanently invalid before retirement age, you may want to check if you qualify to receive invalidity benefit. The invalidity benefit exists for persons who are unable to continue working due to permanent illness. To qualify, you must be under 60 years old, must be sick for 26 consecutive weeks and certified to be medically unable to perform any type of work, must have at least 5 years of paid SSB contributions and at least 5 paid within the 3 months leading up to your illness. If you do not qualify for the invalidity pension, you may be eligible for the invalidity grant. Want to know more about invalidity benefit? Visit our website or contact any of our offices to have someone assist you. Also, be sure to visit our Facebook page and give us a like to stay informed. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
And we're back. And if you're joining us right now, we're getting our second conversation for this morning started. And we're talking about a very great initiative to assist persons with disabilities to get greater accommodation on public transport. And joining us for this conversation, we have Eric Sanchez from the Ministry of Transport, and we also have Christy Almeida from Autism Belize to share her perspective as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, thanks for joining us. I'm very excited to hear about this initiative. It's very important. So let's just talk or start with some background and talk about how this came to, or the initiative started and came to be.
All right, very well. Thank you for having us. My name is Eric Sanchez. I'm a transportation consultant with the Ministry of Public Utilities, Energy and Logistics, working directly with the Department of Transport. Effectively, as a transport planner, for me, fundamentally, one of the things that we must ensure is that everyone has equal access and accessibility to all modes of transportation. So when I came on as a consultant, we realized that having access and accessibility protocols was not in place. And so that for me, that was one of the first things that we needed to do. Now, as a ministry with responsibility for transport, we don't necessarily have that expert opinion or the expert know-how on how to establish such protocols. So what we did was that we reached out to the persons from BAPDA, which is the Belize Assembly for Persons with Diverse Abilities. And what they did, they then reached out to their partners, being in this case Mr. Marshall Nunes from the Ministry of Human Development, Families and Indigenous Affairs. And they started to work with other key stakeholders, being the Belize Assembly for Older Persons, I can't remember exactly. And then with Ms. Christy Almeida from Autism Belize. So it became a coalition of persons who are all interested in being key stakeholders in disability or disability advancement. And so we then created this group, or this working group, to say, hey, what is the first thing that needs to be done? And the first thing that needed to be done was to create a template for trainings, which we successfully executed about a week ago. Ms. Christie?
Yeah, well, that's a walkthrough here that you're seeing the pictures of. Persons from BAPDA, the Belize Assembly for Persons with Disability, the National Council for Elderly Persons, and I think there were also some other stakeholders there, actually toured different terminals to look and see what currently existed and make recommendations on what needs to happen to make things more accessible for all. After that, then I got brought in as Autism Belize, and we started to talk about training. We decided we wanted to do it sort of twofold. We wanted to do a first set of training for everyone to sort of sensitize them, explain to them why persons with disabilities would need extra assistance or additional help. What are the different disabilities, those that are visible, those that are invisible, and also looking at for care for elderly persons, customer service, that sort of thing. So we wanted to do a nice holistic kind of training sensitization to target all of these areas. And then afterwards, we think about, we're thinking of going back, once these things have been made and protocols have been set in place, and do an additional training to talk about, okay, now that these things are in place, what is your role? What do you do? How are these things supposed to work, etc.
Now, it's
I was going to ask Christy, you know, from your perspective, and you know, you work with Autism Belize, and you do, you know, a lot of, you do work with disabled persons. Can you talk just a little bit about what some of the difficulties they do face are currently now, and when there are when there aren't accommodations? How challenging is it, and how accessible is it even for you know, public transport and things like this for persons with all different types of disabilities, and what are the problems that they do face?
Well, I mean, think about how hard it is for a regular person to just walk down the street, and you're looking at potholes and dips and cracks in sidewalks and everything. Imagine someone with a prosthesis that's already having problems getting around, or on a wheelchair, and they're not always ramps and see exactly the dips or things. Or sometimes we make bathrooms and they have a ledge. Someone on a wheelchair, to get into that ledge is an issue. Buses, you know, they want to pull over to the side to let passengers on and off. But sometimes when you pull over to the side of the road, if there's potholes or dips or not a dip there, then how do they get on? None of our buses are equipped to actually lift with wheelchairs. And then once you get on the bus, it's where do you sit? So there are a lot of challenges, steps like what you're seeing there. Also bathrooms. Just going into the bathroom, if there's not a handicap bathroom, and how the door swings in or out for a wheelchair. For someone with autism, for example, my son, who's 13, he's almost 14 now, I can't send him into a men's bathroom on his own. I can't do that. And we don't have family bathrooms. So that means I have to take a 13, almost 14-year-old boy who is, 5'10", taller than I am, into the women's bathroom and then go into a stall with him. Hopefully there'll be a handicap stall to go into him so that he can use the bathroom, because I can't send him alone. And that will weird women out, because they'll see this guy going into a female bathroom and wonder why, but I don't have another option because there's no family bathrooms.
Yeah.
So it attends to all different disabilities when we're talking about the physical, but also the invisible disabilities as well.
Yeah,
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that's something that isn't always apparent to persons and can often get left out of the conversation. Eric, can you then talk a little bit about the collaboration and the process behind, establishing what the accommodations or the protocols would be?
Of course. I think that one of the things that must be first realized is that the Department of Transport has to be that overarching body. They have to be that policy and a regulatory body. And so as a Department of Transport, it is key for us to be able to be in a position where we can say to other key stakeholders that, look, this is the direction that we would want to see our transport sector move towards. Now, in that area, in this specific area with persons with disability, what we thought was necessary was to want to create different protocols that we have done so far, and with the help from our other stakeholders, we have trained about 40 of our terminal staff and an enforcement unit. Now, why enforcement unit? The terminal staff is a given, but the enforcement unit is also important. Oftentimes, they will encounter persons on the road at a vehicle checkpoint who may have varying forms of disabilities, or who may be in a company with somebody who has a disability. How do you interact with that situation? And they need to be able to have that level of training as well to identify and to properly react to these situations. Moving forward, some of the steps that the Department of Transport is interested in taking with our key stakeholders is to look at how do we improve access to a terminal, and then how do you improve accessibilities within these terminals. One, it's if you go to a terminal space, do you have access to that terminal? Are you welcome to that terminal? And is it accessible to you? Can you go into it in a wheelchair? Can you go in and you yourself without the assistance of anybody? So that innately means that we need to look at ramps. We need to look at creation of more friendly visibility signs. So you can't necessarily put a bus schedule with very small font. It has to be something that is legible, something that is appropriate to a person with disabilities. Also looking at how the bathrooms are set up. But all these things requires a lot of resources. And so this is where now we as a group of individuals with this passion towards improving the system have to then recoil and say, look, how is it that we're then now able to find the resources in these challenging times to be able to access and to improve access and accessibility for these persons with disabilities? Some of the things are really easy for us. For us to say, hey, bus owners, you need to be able to have 2 seats in the buses that are for a person with disabilities. That is easy for us to do. It's easy for us to train our persons and we get them equipped. Now, we did the virtual training. What we need to do now is to go and do a hands-on training with some of our staff. Obviously, within a very confined area because of the nature of what the society is right now with COVID. But definitely to do a hands-on stuff, to show them how to care for somebody who is in a wheelchair, how to help somebody who is blind. Those are things that we want to improve, because transportation is key. It means everything to a society. And the sooner you understand how important transportation is, the sooner it is. For me, I'm a young dad. I just had a child. Well, I didn't have a child, but we had a daughter a couple months ago. And so I love pushing my child in a stroller. But every time I'm pushing my child in the stroller, I always encounter a whole pile of obstacles. And I am fully able in that area. But I just imagine, hey, what happens to somebody who is a double amputee, who is a paraplegic? How do they get around? Why is it that you cannot access, an older person can't go from Belize City to Corazon and have that same level of trust and comfort? So those are things that we're trying to improve as a transport sector.
So a while back, there was a campaign called the Front of the Line campaign. It was a joint collaboration between BAPTA, Belize Association of Persons with Disabilities, and the National Aging Council. And what it was trying to do was to get people to embrace the idea of priority access. So in other words, they were going through the heart first, that we as Belizeans should want to put persons with disabilities and aging and elderly persons at the front of the line. Now, that is, of course, one avenue. But what you're doing now is talking about enforcing actual policies. And when you have what many people deem to be a small population of persons who are disabled or have special needs, it doesn't get the same level of buy-in. How do you ensure that this training won't mean that come next week, you know, it'll be difficult for somebody to get access to public transportation?
Indeed. I think Christy wants to chime in, so I'll just be
go
short. What we're trying to do is to build upon what the front of the line campaign actually is. What they did is an exceptional start.
Yeah.
What we're trying to say is we control the terminal interface. We control, as the Department of Transport, the bus interface. We can make policies and procedures in place that definitely the bus owners and operators are 100% in buy-in for these things. They realize that these were needed. So we want to build on these, and we want to help improve, because it may seem like a small population, but the reality, it is not.
No, and I guess my point is, it's almost disheartening, because I thought the front of the line campaign was so great. Why would somebody not want an elderly person to get on the bus and get priority access? Why would somebody not want a person in a wheelchair to be able to access public transportation? And so it seems that this is definitely going to build upon that. Christy, you wanted to chime in?
No, I think Eric said it correctly, that it was a wonderful start, you know, trying to get the community to buy in. But it's been clear that there has to be more done. And I think that's a great initiative from Eric to say, let's do this way. So there's policies, there's going to be designated seating in the terminals, in the buses, explain to them. And what I learned in the training we did a Zoom training a couple weeks ago with about 40 of the staff. It was supposed to be in person, COVID, we went to Zoom. But everybody was really responsive. They had questions, they were excited about it. They said, okay, well, I've helped someone on a wheelchair before. What could I have done differently? And so I think this takes it to another level by really explaining to them, okay, here are the things that you should do. Here are the things you should never say to a person with a disability. Here, you know, and so we kind of broke it down to them. And it was so well received that I think that this is what takes it to the next level. It's not necessarily all about the protocols, but explaining why this is and how exactly to do this. Because obviously, yes, it takes more than just saying an elderly person should be at the head of the line.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. What about moving towards enforcing having disability access on public transportation? In other words, why don't the buses come equipped with what they need?
That's a story for another talk show. Why I say that to say this though, the transportation sector is in the process of improving, and there's a lot of limiting factors that doesn't allow our buses or our providers to be able to afford these things. One of those kneeling buses is going to cost you about $400,000. Is it that the industry is at a point that it can sustain that? So I'm glad you said that though, because that is the same. In lieu of not being able to purchase kneeling buses, we say, let us try and provide an alternative. If we can't get the kneeling bus, what else can we do to ensure that people have access? Because at the end of the day, somebody who needs to go somewhere, who has a disability, needs to go somewhere. While I was studying, I used to think that there was something wrong with the water, because every time you go to Walmart or to the mall, there is always somebody with a disability. And you're like, well, maybe this is a populace of a lot of disabled people, but that's not true. The reality is that they have access and accessibility.
They live normal lives.
Precisely. And that's what inspired us to say, hey, you know, my dad was a double amputee. He was bedridden for quite a long time. But did he have access to being able to go to the park? No. Does he have access to go to the lane? No. Those are things that I think that we need to look at from a planning perspective. And so to improve on those things.
So what's the alternative? If you don't shift towards getting the type of tools, and I ask you if the tourist bus have disability access versus the public transportation, because then it shows priorities as well. But moving beyond that, the issue, it does, right? I'm sure it does.
It does.
And the other issue, though, is looking at just the integrity of it. You know, I had an elderly aunt that was very short, and she had mobility issues. She used to walk with a step stool to get on public transportation. Literally put it so she can make the first step.
Yes.
That's one access. That's somebody taking initiative. But if I'm in a wheelchair, do I want strangers carrying me? Is that really kind of the integrity route to go?
Yeah, and that comes on the heel of what I am here to do as a transport planner. a couple years ago, the IDB did a comprehensive review from a comprehensive national transportation master plan. And then they identified some gaps within the transport sector. They said that, look, there needs to be an improvement in policy and legislation.
Mhm.
There also needs to be improvement in scheduling, routing, and ticketing. There also needs to be capacity development.
Mhm.
I came on under the cusp of capacity development for the Department of Transport as a transport planner. Now, to say that in the future we should have every hour, every 2 hours, you should have a disability-friendly bus, that is something that can't necessarily be done. But then you also have to change, for instance, the length of permits or the length of tenureship within the operators. It is easy to say that, yes, the tourism buses, they have it, but it's going to also say that when you go on a tourist bus, you're paying $200 to enter the bus. So there's a different world that we're dealing with in terms of economy. I think this is a wonderful start to helping to address these problems.
Yeah, and you brought up something important earlier in talking about allocation of resources for these types of things, which is necessary, because I'm thinking, and I'm sure probably some of our viewers are thinking too, is that like we want to see eventually there be ramps and railings and bathrooms that can accommodate different things, but how far are we from it from that, and how monumental then of a task is it to allocate, find the resources for these types of things, or is it just that am I being too defeatist?
Christy, you want to tackle?
Yeah.
I know. No, absolutely not. I'll tell you, I had this conversation this weekend at our ParaPro thing. I said, we're working on getting some iPads more for Stella Maris. And she says, yeah, I really wish we can pray. And I go, no. I mean, pray. I love it. Thank you. I need that. But we need to do. When we started the gift of communication for Stella Maris, we had, 50 kids that needed iPads or whatever. We've given 10. We have 3 more. I've got a bunch more coming in. At the start, everybody was like, yeah, well, that's 50. Those are expensive. Tablets and the apps are really expensive. And I go, well, we're not going to get it if we don't try and we don't ask. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say the same thing here. Yes, the buses cost a lot. Yes, making the signage legible and readable and at an eye level that people from all ages can be able to see it. Yes, this will all take money and it will take time. But just because it will and we're in a bad place, do we throw up our hands and not do anything? Mm-hmm. No, we do something. We've started sensitizing the staff. We're talking about it here. I mean, it might not get done tomorrow. It might not get done next year. But if we're making small steps towards it, I will tell you, from the special needs community and people with disabilities, we will be grateful for every small step. Yes, we want to reach the finish line, but we'll be happy that we're making progress to get there than just saying, oh, well, no money, no there. We better just sit down and stay home.
Yeah, and to compound on what Christy is saying, our country is about 40 years now. This is the first time that this program for us, this training took about 4 months to get completed. Yeah. But 4 months compared to 40 years of inactivity is, for me, a win. Yeah. Now, is it going to take a lot of resources? Yes, it will. But the most important thing is for people to understand and appreciate the simple fact that persons with disability are as important to this society as anybody else, and they need equal access.
And they have a lot to contribute
Most
they have access to get around.
Most certainly.
Yeah, and with that said, do we have any sort of priority or short-term goals that this initiative wants to meet that will be realized sort of sometime soon?
Yeah, definitely. Some of our priority areas is looking at having ramps within all of our terminal spaces. Looking at having things like PA systems, where if you are visually impaired, you can hear what bus is coming up next. Looking at improving signage and making sure that the terminals are visibly appealing to someone. You don't want to have a lot of stimulus within the terminal spaces. It's also looking at simple things like getting wheelchairs at all of the terminals, getting the step stools so that the persons can get on the bus. But most importantly, training and equipping our own workers so that they understand the importance of accessibility and that they understand the importance of helping someone get around. Simply. Christy?
All right. So we're making moves, and I think that it's important that we keep challenging ourselves to be able to improve the society to be inclusive for all. And so this is definitely a step in the right direction, a step up literally for some people to get on a bus. And, you know, we look forward to hearing more as you proceed. So if I am a person, if someone's sitting at home in their wheelchair, what's going to be different for them when they go to a bus station next week?
Well, the first thing that would be different is that our staff are more trained to see you. And they would know that when they see somebody in a wheelchair, that doesn't necessarily mean that that person needs help. But they are trained enough to go to that person and ask if they would like some assistance. And then to know that they have, that they have that. And then to know that, hey, if they need that assistance, that our staff are trained enough to help you, to get you on that bus and give you that respect that you really deserve and you need. Because at the end of the day, that is it. And I really would like to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Christie, to thank Ms. Ishel from Council of Aging, Mr. Nunes from the Disability Desk within the Ministry of Human Development, and Ms. Roxanne Marin, Ms. Itza Pelayo from the Department of Transport. She has done an extremely good job. And so we look forward to, and everybody that I've missed, Ms. Christie, and they're doing a great job. It's a great initiative. And if there are other stakeholders who see that they can contribute to such an initiative, almost all of us know somebody who has a disability. And even at some point, we ourselves will be disabled. Pregnancy is a disability. Aging is a disability. So we want to look at these things. And if you feel at some point you could help, then come. We're willing to assist you and let you help us.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining us and telling us about the great work that you have been up to.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Kaya Katous to tell us the latest on her cycling adventures. So please, stay tuned.
Hey son, how was your first day at Sixth Form?
Really cool. It was great to see my friends, and I really love my teachers.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm sorry I wasn't there for your first day, but I'll be back from Corozal next week.
It's okay, Dad. I can't wait to see you. Oh, and please remember, I still have some books I need to purchase.
Ah, yes. Let me e-cash you that right now. Money has been sent. I add a little extra cash just for you.
Whoa, Dad. Thanks. Got it.
You're welcome, sir.
Download the eCash app today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257. eCash, the future is here.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
If you are ailing due to a chronic disease and are left permanently invalid before retirement age, you may want to check if you qualify to receive invalidity benefit. The invalidity benefit exists for persons who are unable to continue working due to permanent illness. To qualify, you must be under 60 years old, must be sick for 26 consecutive weeks and certified to be medically unable to perform any type of work, must have at least 5 years of paid SSB contributions and at least 5 paid within the 3 months leading up to your illness. If you do not qualify for the invalidity pension, you may be eligible for the invalidity grant. Want to know more about invalidity benefit? Visit our website or contact any of our offices to have someone assist you. Also, be sure to visit our Facebook page and give us a like to stay informed. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
we're back and moving into our final conversation for today, where we are joined by cyclist Kaya Catus, here to tell us all about her recent competitions. She was at the Inteligencia competition and then went on to the Dominican Republic to compete on behalf of Belize. And now we have you back to tell us all about it, right?
Morning, and
Good
thanks
morning.
for having me.
So Kaya, let's just start off and talk about the opportunity to compete again in this pandemic time.
It definitely was, I'd have to say, a treat, because we were out of competition since March of last year, and being able to compete and at such a high level was definitely a treat. I mean, throughout the pandemic, one thing was to keep focus and to keep training, to remain in great physical condition, to be able to compete when the time came. So it was definitely a treat to be outside of Belize competing as per normal.
Our last check-in with you was for the Inteligencia, and you were joined by other Belizeans there where you were performing really well. Let's talk about, you know, when you first went to that, you were the only Belizean rider. It was your own learning curve to figure out how to get through. It was a very different experience. Talk to us about what it's like now having a team of Belizeans there.
Like you said, the first time I was there alone, and competing in sports is not just your physical ability, it's also being mentally sane. So having a group of Belizeans there now, it makes a big difference. We had our own tent, in fact, this year. I think it was about 7 or 8 cyclists, as well as a whole supporting crew, you know, people to handle our bikes in terms of the mechanics, servicing, food and nutrition, all of that stuff. So it was indeed a whole team and a different feel and atmosphere being at the race, more comfortable.
And what was it like training for an international event after, you know, so long? You know, you said just now that, you know, you were keeping focus and trying to keep yourself in physical condition, but I suppose the training has to be amped up when you're talking about going into competition, right?
Definitely, it was training for these types of competition are always difficult, but in terms of a pandemic, it was even harder because there were no races here in Belize, and being race ready is a big asset. So I had to do a lot of motor pacing, a lot of speed work, and it didn't just come from the races and being able to race with the elite guys and, you know, just try to hang on to them. It was me literally have to put in the work behind a motorcycle, and it was really different. During the pandemic, you know, a lot of people got discouraged, not motivated to want to do anything because there was nothing to look forward to. But I had my eyes set on going to Inteligencia Cup again, and when they announced that they were going to have it 2021, that was all I needed to stay in shape and to stay the course.
Yeah. And you guys performed very well. You got on the podium.
I was up there 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oscar was there, I believe, once or twice, and Jafari was up there once as well.
Yeah. What's that like? Coming, especially for your first experience, you had that terrible crash when you know, there was this. I always remember the story. It was such a sharp turn you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that I have gotten more into criterium racing now, taking the corners. I'm definitely more comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
So I've had no crashes since then, thankfully. But this year, for me, getting on the podium, the 3 times that I did were on stages that I would normally not perform well because of how technical the stages are. I got on the podium on the 3 most technical stages of the 10. So, I mean, for me, that was a big mental boost.
And your overall performance, I know you were hoping for better results.
I was looking for the top 3 on the podium overall, and I fell short by 9 points, and I was 4th. I had a horrible day on the day right after the rest day. I believe it was day 5 or 6. in South Chicago. There were a lot of potholes on the course, and I slammed into one with maybe 4 laps or so to go, had a back wheel change, and because the course was more than a mile long, there were no free laps, so I had to chase. The race was neutralized. I managed to get back, and in getting back, that was when I realized that I had no rear brakes. So I mean, it was just a complete fiasco on that course for me that day.
Yeah.
And the sprint finish was crazy. There was a crash. I wasn't in it, but I couldn't manage to get around it in time.
Yeah.
But I mean, all this happens in racing, and in 10 days of racing, you have to expect everything on any day.
So yeah, how do you mentally push through those times when you do encounter those like difficulties and just to get to the finish line?
Well, I knew that finish on that particular day, I knew that it was going to set me back in the overall standings.
Yeah.
So that in itself gave me the boost to want to push, so that in the remaining days I could bring myself up back to the podium spot where I wanted to be. So I took the negative and turned it into a positive, basically.
Well, we know one thing about you. You never stop pushing yourself. So you made it to 4th, and you went on the podium 3 times. So you're gunning for making the podium in the final, in the end, next time around?
Definitely. That is the ultimate goal, to come out on top of that podium. And I think when I am able to podium overall in the 2-3 category, then I will promote myself to the pro category, even if by standings I'm not supposed to.
And then you left Chicago after it was 9 days of racing, right? You had one rest day in between.
We had one rest day in between.
And then you went to Santo Domingo.
Before that, when I left Chicago and I went to Michigan, I did a 1-week training camp there.
Okay.
And from there I went to, I met up with the Belize national team in Miami, and we went to Santo Domingo for the Caribbean Cycling Championships and the Pan American Games.
Yeah.
In Santo Domingo, the Caribbean Cycling Championship, it was, there was a tropical storm passing just then, so the race was postponed, and we did it later on in the evening, so the miles were cut down, the distance was cut down, just in order for there to be a race. I finished 2nd in that race.
You did. I see the medal in front of you.
I brought
you gotta
my
hold
medal.
it up. And
This is my first Caribbean Cycling Championship medal, and I have been, I think this is my 6th Caribbean Cycling Championship. I've been going since 2012, missing some years in between playing football. But this is the first time I have been able to podium on such a grand stage. And
now, do you think it's your conditioning coming out of racing and training that had you in tip-top shape?
Definitely. Being able to race and train in the US 5 or 6 weeks prior to an event like this definitely puts you at a different level, and one that you are not able to reach simply training here in Belize. And I wish I had the opportunity to race and train abroad before I go to any international event to represent Belize, because I mean, the results speaks for themselves.
Yeah.
For the past 5 or 6 times that I have been there, it has always been racing and training here at home, going there and never getting on the podium. And the one time that I did otherwise, the results show.
What's the difference, though? Explain to us.
Racing puts you definitely at a higher level, especially racing with people who are just a notch above you. It pushes you to another level. So you're able to hold a higher wattage, you're able to hold a higher heart rate, you're able to hold a higher speed for a longer period of time. And doing it consecutively for a couple of days puts you at a different level. So when you rest and recover, and then I went into a 1-week training camp, then I traveled, I mean, you were just maybe 2 or 3 notches from where you left at home.
You already pushed yourself beyond your average capacity.
Definitely.
And I imagine as well that when you, apart from the competition aspect of it, when you go to international events, you also get the chance to meet other athletes, maybe share some knowledge. What's that experience like when you do go abroad?
There is this one girl who I tend to follow on social media. She is from Trinidad and Tobago. Her name is Tennille Campbell. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that name, but she used to do the same thing, race and train in Trinidad, go to the Caribbean Cycling Championships, mash them up, mash up everything in her region. And she got the opportunity to go to the UCI training camp in Switzerland. And she is now a professional cyclist who races and lives in Europe. So I met Tennille in Santo Domingo, and speaking to her and having her explain to me what pro life is like, coming from the Caribbean and transitioning to living European style. I mean, all we see is her on the podium and her successes, but we don't know the struggles and all the setbacks on the road to success. So listening to that firsthand, really opens your eye as to, is this something you really want? Is this the road you want to take? But I mean, at my age, that story for me is pretty far-fetched. I'm now 30 years old. Most female cyclists, this is their prime time between the age of, I'd say, 28 to 36 is when, they are doing their best. I mean, the women at the Olympics and at the Worlds are in that age group who are performing at the top level. But it's tough coming from where I come from.
Are you saying that you don't want that pro life?
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that the opportunities, that the doors that need to open for you coming from Belize, it's like you're standing at the bottom and try to stomp them open from the top.
Yeah. Well, you do that every time you medal, every time you get on a podium and
Definitely.
people hear your name and hear the country.
Definitely. And I think that with our presence now in international racing, Belize is no longer a country that you say also participates when it comes to cycling. We are now competing. We are now breaking barriers. We are now medaling. I mean, we came home from the Caribbean Cycling Championship with 3 medals. And we have not done this in a long time. I thought that this would have been something bigger coming home. Sadly, it wasn't, but for the team and myself, this was a great accomplishment.
And what are some of the things that are probably needed in Belize then, so that we can, to push our athletes then to the next level? What sort of resources or systems or something need to be in place, from your perspective?
We always talk about finance and how much money it takes to do things like this, but really and truly, all we need is a simple start. Something like the national team that we now have set in place, who has been training on their own and being able to go out to a competition like this and do so well together, shows a lot of the discipline and the dedication that we have as individual athletes. So what we need now is our governing body to harness all of this and put it together.
We know that in addition to taking care of your own personal training, you've been working a lot with young people. Has that been on hold since all of COVID?
Definitely not. I still have, in particular, 2 youths who I've been working with, and they've been doing pretty well themselves. We have the weekly Sea-Ray Full Throttle Thursday races, and there has also been some Sunday races for non-competitive cyclists that they have also been participating in. So the high school summer series or the high school cycling series and the youth summer series has been on hold since COVID. Due to the fact that we're not able to gather in large numbers. But this is something that, we plan to kickstart as soon as we can.
So what's next for you?
Well, I have many hats that I wear, Marlene, but what's next in terms of cycling? Yes. What's next in terms of cycling? We have the Gateway Cup coming up in St. Louis, Missouri. Labor Day weekend, the 3rd to the 6th of September.
Okay.
So next week, I'm planning to go and do this race again, and this opportunity came about based on my performance at the Intelligentsia Cup. So this is first time that I'll be doing this one, and hopefully we can do as good as we did in Chicago.
Yeah, I bet you will.
I think I'm in very good physical condition.
Are you going alone, or the Belizeans are going to go too?
Wasani Castro is already there.
Okay.
So I'll be meeting him out there.
Well, Kaya, this was just the opportunity to kind of touch base and hear from you. We know you've been working really hard. The last time we spoke to you was on that rest day, and I have to tell you, I felt so much guilt. I thought we were bad luck because of what happened after that. But it is still good to hear that we were able to represent so well when we went to Santo Domingo. And keep up the great work.
Definitely. I just want to say, a big thank you for all the people who made Chicago, Santo Domingo, and cycling for the past 6 weeks possible. It has been a pleasure representing my country, representing my team, and I plan to do it for as long as I can.
All right. Well, Kaya, thanks for coming in and giving us that update. Definitely appreciate it. And with that, we are going to be taking another break, and when we come back, we're going to have our wrap-up, so please stay tuned.
Is always with you, from live TV, sports, and on-demand titles. Choose your plan today. Plans start as low as $15 per month. My TV, entertainment, anytime, anywhere.
Imagine going through your entire day without the burden and risk of carrying cash on you. Belize's shift to digital wallets has begun with eCash. We can now skip the cash when collecting money or paying for our essentials, all while using a fast, easy, and secure platform. Simply add funds to your wallet via bank transfer or at an agent, and you're good to go. You will be able to make quick, easy payments simply by scanning QR codes. And best of all, it all happens just like that. Payments are as easy as clicking a link online or scanning a QR code. Download the eCash app from the Google Play and Apple App Store today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. The future is here with eCash. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257 to find out more.
Bundle the fastest, most reliable, unlimited broadband in Belize with your prepaid or postpaid mobile plan or Netflix. You can bundle your broadband with your prepaid and enjoy 50% off all national calls, plus get SMS and data. Paid plans? Then bundle with any speed and pay only $25 extra monthly to enjoy unlimited smart-to-smart calls, plus 500 minutes, plus 6,300 megabytes of data. Stream unlimited HD movies and TV shows with our broadband, plus the Netflix add-on for only $30 monthly, and enjoy streaming on your laptop, TV, phone, or tablet. Visit a smart showroom near you to sign up or upgrade to the bundle that's right for you. Smart, bringing people together.
Whether it's back to the classroom or back on the tablets, the new school year is almost here. We know you missed seeing the children take center stage in 2020, but now Summerfest is back, pandemic style. Join us on August 27th for a virtual celebration of our talented Belizean children. We'll bring you all the family fun and entertainment right in the comfort of your home. Don't worry, we'll still have fantastic giveaways throughout the live show. All you have to do is follow us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ. Our annual Kids Talent Show starts at 6:30 a.m. live on 5 and streamed on Facebook and YouTube. Start your school year right with Summerfest 2021.
And we're back.
Yep, we are just getting our show wrapped up, and we want to say thank you to all our guests this morning. We started off our show with a conversation with representatives from the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, talking about lots of concerns that relate from COVID-19 to the business community. Of course, it's a very important and ongoing conversation that we have to have, and talking all about finding that balance between managing our health concerns as well as those of our economy. So we want to say thank you to them, as well as Eric Sanchez from the Ministry of Transport, as well as Christy, to talk about their great initiative to accommodate persons with disabilities on public transportation.
Definitely, that's the direction we need to move in. And I think that, you and I were talking off air just how important it is in a country where you can be able to have reliable, dependable transport system that's accessible to everybody. And so I think the fact that we are moving in that direction, we're going to be more inclusive of persons who have disabilities, is definitely the right step. But I love what Christy said. We can sit back and say there are no resources, it's too expensive, or we can just start doing. And I think that's the key part.
Yeah, and I think that Eric also said something, the example that he gave is something that I've heard before, when he spoke about, when he's abroad and seeing more disabled people. Yeah. And I remember that somebody made a comment, something like similar like that about here, saying, somebody told me, you never see people in wheelchairs, or you never see, and I said, well, I immediately responded, well, what is the level of wheelchair access that they have? I mean, public transportation, even just the sidewalks,
or bathrooms.
Or bathrooms, exactly.
Yeah.
So it can sometimes seem like we have such a small or even invisible population, but it has mainly to do with the level of access. So it's really great that this initiative is starting, and as they said, they're 4 months in. So we wish them the best, and we hope that the initiative does, come to be successful ultimately.
Yeah. We also want to say thank you to Kaya Catus for stopping in and giving us an update as to how she performed. The last time we spoke to her, it was before the final leg of the Intelligentsia Cup. And while she did great, she came in 4th place. She had a tough ending of the race there, but she still was able to come in 4th. And then moved on to Santo Domingo, where she and the rest of the Belizean team did earn a few medals. And I think it's important for us to be able to check in with our athletes, find out how they're doing. Athletes like Kaya especially are very much driven and have been pushing themselves for so long. It's great to hear from them how they're doing.
Yes, absolutely. So that was our show this morning, but that's all the time we have for today.
I do have one birthday shout out this morning,
okay.
And the mom has been in touch with me. I want to say a happy birthday to Kylie Sarai, and of course that comes from all of us here at Channel 5 and Open Your Eyes. We hope you have a great day today. But as Gavin said, all the time we have. So if you'd like to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com.
You can find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OIEBelize.
And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
Start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your heart open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.